in the Power Hour event, Sarah, to let people know?
I will.
All right, I think we are live. So, hello and welcome to episode 2 of our DHH Hero Power Hour. My name is Brooke Montgomery. I am a parent with Kentucky Hands and Voices, and I have 2 special DHH heroes with me tonight. If you don't already know, this series is part of our DHH Hero program. We have almost 30 deaf and hard of hearing adults across the state who volunteer with Kentucky Hands and Voices to do things like this. They come and they answer questions and they share from their own experiences about what it's like to grow up with a hearing loss. So we appreciate all of them. They have, just like our families, lots of different communication modes. So we have signers and we have deaf adults that speak. We have a little bit across the board. So each of our heroes has their own trading cards that you can collect at our events. And in fact, if you comment tonight, tell us where you're from, ask some questions of our heroes, we will mail you your very own trading cards from our guests tonight. So if you were with us last month, tonight's going to be a little different. We're going to spend the first 30 minutes talking to one hero and the second talking to another. I'm going to share my screen. Before I introduce, let's see. Whoops, did I share both? So our hero tonight for the first half is Will Frentz, AKA William. Will is from the Louisville area, and he's been a great friend of Kentucky Hands and Voices for a while now. Will, if you want to start out and just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, where you went to school, some things like that.
Sure, thanks for having me tonight. So obviously my name's Will. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. I was born in 1991 with profound hearing loss in both ears. So my parents actually didn't know I was deaf until I was about a year and a half old. And then at that point, they found out about Louisville Deaf School, which is now Heiser Hearing and Language Academy in downtown Louisville. And so I started there when I was about a year and a half up until kindergarten. So I didn't get my first cochlear implant until I was 5 years old. And so that was that was a year before kindergarten. And then I started mainstreaming the year after that, doing half days at Heiser and then half days at public school in Louisville. And then I just had interpreters, speech therapists all until 5th grade. And then I had speech therapy only until 9th grade of high school. And then I was always in the public school system in Louisville through high school. So I went to Manual for high school. And then after Manual, I went to Center College here in Danville. To play, I went there obviously for school first, and I also played college soccer there. So I then got my second cochlear implant when I was 22 years old, to sort of to supplement my hearing a little bit more. And it's really helped more with just localizing where sound's coming from, as opposed to just really understanding what I'm hearing out of that ear. But I've always tried to stay in touch with the deaf community growing up as a kid, and it's something I really cherish with my family. Sign language, American Sign Language, using that with my daughters too. So that's kind of a long introduction, but yeah, that's kind of my little background, and yeah. So
Perfect. So you just mentioned a little bit about playing soccer at center. So we'll just jump right in and talk a little bit about your role on the deaf men's national soccer team. How did you get involved with that? And tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I first found out about the dev team when I was probably 15. I saw a Sports Center, I guess, segment on this deaf basketball player who played at University of South Carolina, and it was talking about how he went to the Deaf Olympics and all this. So I thought surely there's got to be a deaf soccer team. So at that point, I just Googled, USA Deaf Soccer, and I found the coach. He invited me to a training camp down in Florida, and made that team. And that was my first tournament. Was in Greece in 2008. I was 17 at that time. I was the youngest on the team, and then I've been on the team since then. It's been a really wonderful experience. Most of us on the team grew up, being one of the only deaf kids in our communities, cities. So just having that shared experience is really, really special. And obviously representing our country is really cool too. And so team sports for me was really big growing up as a deaf and hearing impaired kid. Just getting to, make friends and socialize outside of a school setting. So um, soccer's just been, a big part of my life, and it still is. I'm 30 years old now, so my days are limited on this team, but I'll play as long as I can, and stay involved as a mentor or a coach or whatever I can, however I can help. So.
Awesome. Sorry, my little guy is trying to interrupt. So, um, I know you all traveled a lot with your soccer team. What is it like traveling with a lot of other, with your teammates? And I guess kind of a similar question, did all of your teammates communicate in the same way? And how did all that work?
So it's really interesting. The requirement to be on this team is to have a 50 decibel hearing loss or worse in your better ear. So um, we have a really wide range of kind of experience with, being mainstreamed or growing up in deaf schools, being rural, knowing sign language, um, using only ASL, just a really wide range there. So I would say, I knew sign language just because I didn't have a cochlear implant until I was 5. So I would say maybe if we have 22 players on the team, maybe 4 or 5, maybe a little bit more will have cochlear implants. Maybe 7 to 10 have hearing aids, and the rest, for whatever reason, just don't have implants or hearing aids. Use only ASL. So even within this team, there's communication barriers. I mean, not major, but it's something we have to work on, and it's a big part of what we focus on when we do to get together. It's really just our communication, our ability to communicate during games and camps. So it's been really interesting to meet guys who grew up in going to deaf schools, like state schools for the deaf, going to Gallaudet or RIT, are very much into deaf culture. And then there's guys who don't know any sign language at all. But, we still find a way to work together, play together, and really develop the chemistry that we need. So it's been an amazing experience. And they have deaf teams for all sports. I think that's my daughter right behind me. So she's being so silly. But yeah, it's been an amazing experience getting to know everyone. So
I love that. It kind of makes me think of just Hands and Voices and how, we have a lot of kids that all have different communication modes, but yet we can all kind of come together and celebrate that. So I just think that's so cool that you're able to be part of that team. Um, as far as, we'll talk a little more about soccer. So as far as soccer, what is your um, proudest accomplishment as a soccer player? I see your proudest accomplishment is actually right behind you, but as a soccer player, what what is your proudest accomplishment?
I would say winning the Deaf Pan American Games last that was in November of 2019. So that was the first ever tournament that USA has won. It was the Pan American Games. So we played Brazil, Argentina, Mexico, Chile, and Peru, and we beat all those teams in 1 week, and that was an incredible experience. So it qualified us for both the Deaf Olympics, which will be next year in Brazil, and the Deaf World Cup, which will be in 2023 in South Korea. And then another accomplishment is just playing 4 years in college soccer at a really high level for Division III at Center College. But yeah, I've had a lot of great experiences with many different teams I've been on over the years. But being on the Deaf national team is definitely the most special soccer experience I've had in my life. So just sharing that bond of similar upbringing, similar challenges of being one of the only hearing impaired kids on our teams, in our schools, in our lives, really. So yeah, it's really special. And I have several of my teammates come to my wedding a few years ago. Guys from all over the country really are on this team, so it's really been awesome.
Very cool. What advice do you have for parents whose children want to play sports, or I guess really any kind of extracurricular for that matter? But what advice do you have for those families?
But I would give them advice of be supportive. Try not to focus on one sport too early. I played a lot of sports growing up, different sports. Really just gradually over time, soccer was the sport I wanted to focus on most. I played baseball until freshman year. When it's hard to meet their teammates, just hearing or being able to speak with them. I definitely had some hard times, but just be supportive of your kids and just encourage them to do what they really enjoy and love. So my best friends now are from soccer. I think it's not a coincidence. Just it was fun, it wasn't about just being able to speak or communicate clearly 100% of the time. But just be supportive, and that's it about that.
All right, you cut out a little on it, but I think we understood most of it. So, one of the questions from the parents, it says, "What has been your biggest hurdle in playing sports, and how did you overcome that hurdle?"
I would say probably the biggest hurdle would probably be just keeping my hearing aids implants on. Because as you all know, they're not cheap, and it was definitely nerve wracking for my parents. And now as an adult, I understand why. So I would say I wore headbands, and I still do when I play soccer. And just keeping them on and secure. Um, keep a now the hearing aids and cochlear implants have Bluetooth, and you can find them on your phone now. Definitely take advantage of that. If they fall off while your kids are playing sports or in the backyard or around the neighborhood or whatever, because there are many times when I was 7, 10 years old, I would lose my implants and not stop and pick it up, and it would drive my parents insane. So it's great that the technology is there now to find it from your phone. So definitely turn those on. But really, in keeping batteries on me, I wouldn't charge my batteries. Just always remembering to keep extra batteries with me is something I always had to be mindful of. Yeah.
That's funny. I bet the soccer field is really big when you have a lost cochlear implant, right?
Definitely, it gets a lot bigger when the implant's this small or the hearing aid is that small. Yeah.
That's funny. What other things interest you besides soccer? Do you like music, movies? What kind of things do you like to do?
I'm a really big reader. I always have been. Honestly, that's what I do in my free time. I don't have much anymore with the 4-year-old and 2-year-old, both daughters. So when I do have free time, I'll read a book, and yeah, that's my main hobby. I'll do some projects around the house. But I didn't really pick that up until I was, a homeowner. I had to, yeah. But um, but yeah, I'm a big reader, and I really encourage that. As far as it helped me a lot when I was a young kid. Um, my parents would just let me read when I wanted to, what was enjoyable for me to read, just because they felt like it. It helped me a lot with my grammar and um, really catching up, especially in elementary school, with not hearing at all until I was 5. So I was a total bookworm, and I still am. So that's my main hobby, I guess.
What kind of books do you like to read?
So now I like to read our biographies. Um, I like to read a lot of history. Um, I'm a history buff for sure. So yeah, books along those lines. So,
Very cool. So tell me a little bit about your family. Is your wife deaf or hearing, and how did you meet?
she is hearing, and I'm the only deaf person in my entire family. So we have my wife and I. We met about 7 years ago, and we've been married for 5 years, and we have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. So as soon as my wife and I met, when we were dating, she started learning sign language just so she can easily communicate with me. If we were in a really noisy environment, um, she's not fluent by any means, but we know enough to be able to communicate, across the room. And my daughters know some sign language as well. So it's been really helpful as a parent for my kids to know some sign language, especially before they were really piecing together sentences. Just because it's when they're 2 or 3, they can get really frustrated if they can't feel like they can communicate. So sign language has been really helpful. And I would say there's a lot of research that shows it's really great for kids to learn sign language, hearing kids to learn sign language. And I think it's teaching my kids, patience and empathy for people like me, to maybe they need to slow down or make sure they're being clear. And I think it would be great for them, you know, having a parent that has different communication needs. So, yep.
So you have, we saw one of your daughters. They're the cutest thing. They're so adorable. Was there ever any concern before they were born that they may be born with a hearing loss, or?
Yeah, there was. So I think my audiologist told me before we were trying to have kids that there was maybe a 25% chance that they would have a hearing loss. And neither of them did have a hearing loss. But the nice thing is that they do hearing tests now, when they're at the hospital, newborns. But back in 1991, that wasn't required. So my parents didn't know that. They didn't have any reason to think I would possibly be deaf. So either concerned, but I mean, there's never, I was never really worried, if they were going to be deaf, just because I had, my life, to look back at, as far as what resources there are out there for deaf and hard of hearing kids. But yeah.
What about being a father with hearing loss? Is there any challenges, or maybe there's some advantages? I always say, like, it would be nice to be able to, turn everything off in my household sometimes. So.
Yeah, that's definitely a blessing there. I do sleep well at night when we have newborn babies, so that's something my wife is a little bit jealous of. So, but yeah, there are some challenges. I think there's some bases when your kids are toddlers, and sometimes they'll understand why they might have to repeat themselves, but now, like my 4-year-old, she's becoming really aware of what situations are difficult for me. Noisy restaurants, crowded places, things like that. So there's definitely challenges, but I think that my wife and I are a really great team, and we were really blessed with two wonderful daughters that are just amazing. So.
Well, again, I mean, your family is like the sweetest little family. I love seeing pictures, kind of following along. So, as far as parents, if you can think back kind of to your own parents and, just what is something that they did that you really appreciate that they did for you growing up?
My mom really was super supportive of me. When she found out I was deaf, she immediately started learning sign language. Was buying books mainly to learn sign language, so that she knew it'd be a long time before I'd be able to really effectively communicate verbally. So she became really fluent in sign language. My dad did as well, but my mom, she put a pause on her career, to stay at home with me, which is we were really blessed to be able to do that. I know that's not something that every family can do, but she really sacrificed a lot, and was really on top of me being able to get every service I needed, every kind of work I can have. Um, as far as getting speech therapy, having interpreters in every class, um, audio visual systems in our schools. Yeah, the 90s it was a different time. We didn't have any Bluetooth or anything. So I actually had these giant, speakers next to my desk all through elementary, middle school. I would always sit in the front row. Um, it was hard at times for me to understand that she was purely looking out for me, and not just, nagging me, because it did feel like she was nagging me at times. But now, like looking back, I thank her now all the time. It's just, it can be difficult, and I know now being a parent, it can feel really difficult to have them understand that you are looking out for their best interests. Um, especially a lot of speech therapy things that are one-on-one, when I'm away from my peers in a mainstream school setting, it could feel isolating. But my mom she was just really supportive. She was really assertive, making sure that school administrators knew, that ADA guarantees that we get these services the support that we need. Um, so I'm now a parent, so I understand it can be really difficult to be on the same page, especially the child special needs or disabilities. So I just really really commend you all, and really just your child will appreciate that support one day, even if it's not right now. But
Yeah.
Appreciate.
I said it's a fine line we walk as parents of, asserting and getting what our kids need for them without driving our kids crazy at the same time sometimes. So I think you hit that one on the head. So um, what is one message you would like to tell parents that have deaf and hard of hearing children?
I would say that this organization that you all have is a tremendous resource. Just tapping into that, I would definitely do that, and have your kids network with each other, get to know each other. I know you all do that, and I know COVID was a really tough year, especially in 2020, just not being able to do all that in person. But really, I just really am really proud of you guys, all of you parents that are here, and just picking up little tidbits of how you can help make your child's life, better. And yeah, I'm really grateful for you all. It's my mom, my parents who have been in this meeting right now. It's 20, 30 years ago. But it's really, really wonderful group that you all have. Really wonderful volunteers that you guys have that run. So.
Well, we are equally grateful for you guys for coming and imparting your experience, your knowledge on us. So we appreciate that so much. And if you came to our camp last summer, Camp Little Victories, you received an autographed photo from Will from his time with, well, he's still with, but the Deaf Men's National Team. I think that picture was from that tournament you were talking about earlier. We you guys are playing in Louisville this summer, correct? Can you tell me a little bit about what is happening there?
Yeah, so we're actually going to have a training camp in Louisville from July 14th through 18th. And we usually will have these camps around the country once or twice a year, but we finally have one here in Louisville. So it's for, high school age and older that are looking to make the team. But what we usually do is on the last day, on a Sunday, we'll have a kids clinic for deaf and hard of hearing kids in that local area to come and meet members of the team, and really meet each other and have our parents come. It's been a great experience. We've had parents of babies come to these camps and just talk with us. It'll be maybe an hour on that Sunday morning, and maybe 11 o'clock. I'll send you all the details when we get closer to that camp, but really encourage you all to come and to meet members of the team, and I would love to meet you all there. So
Yeah, I know. I can't wait. I'm hoping my guy will play some soccer in the future, so I can't wait to bring him and meet everybody. So I think our time is up with Will. I know you have a couple of little girls you've got to tuck in bed tonight, so
I do.
I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time to speak with us, and hopefully we'll see you in person at some events soon, and definitely in July. So Thank you very much, Will. I think he's freezing again. So, all right. And for the next half hour, we have with us Shaylee Allen. I'm gonna have Shaylee turn on her camera. Hey Shaylee, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm single parenting it tonight, and my 5-year-old is in and out of the room, unfortunately. So, so for the second half, we have Shaylee Allen. Shaylee is the Teal Flash, and I'm going to share her card here. I love it. So Shaylee is currently a college student from Lexington, Kentucky. So if you want to just take a second, Shaylee, and kind of tell us, what's in the name? Why the Teal Flash?
Well, at first it took a while to think of the name, but one thing, teal is a pretty color, so that's why I picked teal. And Flash most likely describes my personality because I'm a positive, energetic person, and that's what describes me.
I love it.
Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna stop sharing. And all right, so you kind of, your card kind of tells us a little sneak peek about what your interests and hobbies are. But if you could share with us about some of the things you like to do.
Yeah, well, I'm in school to become a digital media designer. I'm always in love with the arts. It's my passion ever since I was little. I was always into like paint and colored pencils and everything. So yeah, I feel like I should take a step further and explore my ability.
I love it. I like doing all that stuff too. So I've told her in the past she's gonna have to come intern for us at Hands and Voices, and I can put her to work a little bit. So you said that you like to do like short movies and things like that. What kind of movies or TV? What kind of things do you like to watch?
Well, the movies that I like to watch is more like action, sci-fi, adventure, all those kind of movies. I like the storytelling, like, oh, what's gonna happen next? Because sometimes I don't like all the cliffhangers. But yeah, those are my most favorite movies I like, especially the Marvel films. Yeah.
I have 3 boys. We just finished watching the whole Marvel universe in sequence. So
oh wow.
I'm well versed now in Marvel. So tell us where you went to high school and a little bit about, I guess you're in college now. What kind of accommodations have you had throughout school?
Well, I went to Henry Clay High School, and the accommodations that I had ever since middle school was like a note taker. I had a captionist, and I had an FM system that connects to my hearing aids that helps me hear the teacher more. So those are, and also extended time, almost forgot that. But those are the things that really helped me excel in my education. And I'm really grateful that I had the opportunity to get those.
So we just talked to Will, and of course he's very involved in sports. Did you play any sports in school or other extracurricular activities?
Oh, I was into everything. Well, ever since I was 5, I cheered in a little league, and then I also danced as well. So I kind of bloomed in that kind of area. I cheered 6th, 7th, and 8th grade in middle school and 2 years in high school. I really enjoyed it. Everyone's like, why would you want to cheer? I just love having fun and not letting my hard of hearing disability take away from what I love to do. So yeah, I try to keep on going.
I just love your positive attitude. So you kind of exude happiness. It's great. So So I didn't realize you were a dancer too. That's pretty cool. So how did that work as far as having a hearing loss and dancing? Did you use any accommodations there, or is it just turn the music up and
Mhm.
how did that work?
Um, of course, I let them know, and then like if I miss something, I'll basically ask them, like turn up the music or what's that count again, and it helped me um succeed in those things. And also, I asked my friends and all that, so that really helped me.
That's really cool. So I guess more onto a serious question. So one of the things that parents and I'll admit this is one of the first concerns that I had when I found out that I have a son who has hearing loss. Like when he grows up, is he going to get made fun of? Will he get bullied? Um, did you ever experience any kind of teasing or bullying as a result of hearing loss?
I have. I would say once I transitioned to middle school, like I was held back in the second grade. And of course that kind of took me away from my old friends. And I guess going to new schools kind of interfere with that as well. Um, I made fun of how my hearing is like, oh, can you hear this? Can you hear that? Yeah, it was hard. It was difficult, but now I'm embracing it, trying to move forward and not let negativity impact my motivation and everything. So yeah.
I
So
can
yeah.
tell. My next question was going to be like, how did you work through that? But I can tell that
Oh, sorry.
no, you're fine. I can tell you've done a marvelous job working through that. So,
Oh.
um, so how did your parents teach you to become more independent? Did they have a role in that? I mean, as far as advocating for yourself and becoming more independent as you grew up?
My parents helped me a lot. They taught me more of a responsibility to ask for help when I need it. Because sometimes I can be a little bashful and not ask for it, but they try to teach me to be more bold and upfront with it and saying, "Hey, I need help," and then that really pushed me to really like ask for it. So now I'm confident to ask for help when I need to. Yeah.
So that's become easier for you, as you've gotten older.
Mm-hmm. Especially in college, because in college you're on your own and you have to take that first step to ask for help, and yeah, it helped a lot.
Yeah, I've heard of a lot of deaf adults when they enter college kind of tend to not take those accommodations and things because now it's on them to have to fight for that. So so I think it's important to have that skill going into college. One of the things on your card too, you mentioned your sister being kind of your best friend. So I have 3 kids of my own, and 2 of those siblings, they react totally different to having a brother that has hearing loss. So it's, particularly interesting to me. So did you, do you think you and your sister, you were treated the same way growing up? Did you kind of have the same rules and same expectations? And, did it cause any kind of sibling rivalry or, lots of questions there, but you just kind of talk to me about your relationship with your sister.
My relationship with my sister is really close. She's always there for me and she supports me through everything. We were treated the same way. The expectations were the same. There was no rivalries. My parents, they did their very best to make sure everything is equal. And like of course with me being hard of hearing, they'll say, "Hey, let me just repeat this again." That's basically the only thing that they do for me growing up. But yeah, I feel like everything's basically the same with my sister.
What is you're still young, so I hesitate to ask this question, but what is your proudest accomplishment in life so far? Can be related to hearing loss or not.
Um, I think graduating from high school and graduating from BCTC were like one of the biggest accomplishments because I look back on it and I'm like, wow, look how far I came along. But yeah, those are my big accomplishments. And I'll say with hearing loss is like I embrace it more instead of being like trying to hide it. And I think that's what I'm proud of. Yeah.
So you've kind of come into your own as far as your hearing loss is concerned. So,
Mhm.
what was that process like? Like, kind of how old were you when you kind of decided, like, I'm going to own this?
I like how you said that. I'll say, well, after my bullying experience, of course, bullying kind of made it where I had to hide it from other people. But I guess once I got to high school, I said, you know what, I'm gonna change something. I'm gonna embrace it now. So now I'm not afraid. At that point, my friends are starting to be more supportive. Um, I didn't get questioned a lot in the ways that I had in middle school. And being part of the deaf hard of hearing cluster, it helped me grow and start to say, hey, there's someone else that has hard of hearing. I'm like, okay, now I feel pretty cool right now. Yeah.
So you did have friends in school that were also hard of hearing?
I'll say when I joined the deaf hard of hearing cluster, because in elementary school, I didn't. I was like the only one. But then as I went to those clusters, I had more.
And when did that start? Was that high school? That
Which started?
the clusters.
Oh, it started in middle school, Bryan Station Middle.
Okay.
It started there, and then high school when I went to Clay. Yeah.
So did you, that was kind of the next thing I wanted to ask about. Did you ever experience any feelings of isolation growing up? And I guess in the same, did you know other kids, that were also hard of hearing, and, what did that look like for you?
Yeah. Of course, the cluster made me feel very good and everything, but there were some times where I felt isolated, as in when it comes to like friends whispering, it's like, yeah, it kind of hurts when friends are whispering and then I say, oh, what did you say? Sometimes they don't want to repeat it. But I think that's the only thing that made me feel isolated as a hard of hearing person.
Right. I hear that like lunchroom environments are really hard in school.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, tell me a little
are.
bit about your lunchroom experience.
Oh my. Well, lunch experience, it was kind of hard. It's like loud noise everywhere. And then of course I asked them to repeat again and again. I kind of caught myself kind of speaking a little too loud here and there. But yeah, I just when I'm with my friends, I just make sure to remind them that I can't hear. And yeah, I think that's the experience I only had in the lunchroom.
So, tell me a little bit about college then. You've already told me kind of what your major is and as far as aspirations. So what exactly do you want to do when you graduate with your degree? Like dream job.
Oh, my dream job. Oh, well, yeah, I had a lot of dreams. Well, my goal is to make a difference in the world. I always want to make an impact in different societies and communities with my work. Like as a digital media designer, I want to create like powerful messages and also uplifting messages. I feel like that will make a positive impact and all that stuff. So that's what I really want to do. Hopefully one day own my own company. That's a dream. But yeah.
You're supposed to say come work for Kentucky Hands and Voices, right?
Oh, also, yeah. Yeah, I'd be totally interested.
All right. So tell me about your social life and if I'm allowed to talk about dating and kind of what that looks like for, a young hip college kid.
Well, I still connect with my friends. I still connect with my friends. I text them, and of course, I'm dating right now. Of course, he has hearing, but he loves me no matter what my disability is. So yeah, that's my social life as of right now.
Do you talk to your friends on a cell phone, or how do you communicate with your group of friends?
I communicate through text and call, basically FaceTime and all that. Yeah, I think that's mostly how I talk to them right now. Yeah.
I'm gonna take a break and open a popsicle real quick because.
Oh, hi. He's so cute.
Thank you. Say hi. This is Luke.
Oh.
He's wearing his dinner all over his face. So.
Hi.
And I'm having 2 snacks in a row tonight.
Oh, okay. That sounds pretty good. I wish I could have some.
Yeah, all the rules go out the window when mom's on a live meeting, right? All right. So, what is something that your parents did when you were growing up that you really appreciate them doing? And then, is there anything that you would change about your growing up experience?
I'm really grateful that my parents are always there for me to support me no matter what. It's like as soon as I lost my hearing in the 2nd grade, they were right on it. They'll make sure I get plenty of help. We went to the audiologist. So that's basically what they've done for me that I appreciate a lot. So I really wouldn't change anything, even though I was devastated again about being held back, but I fully understand now looking at it. They did what's best for me.
So tell me a little bit about that, because I don't know your whole story. So you found out in 2nd grade. Did you just lose your hearing in 2nd grade, or was it kind of a progressive thing you just found out about? Or tell me a little bit about that.
So of course, I grew up. Well, when I was born up to the 2nd grade, I had hearing in both ears. We're still trying to. Well, I had a story, but we're still trying to figure out how I lost it. I don't know if I inherited from a past family member, but it just went out in my right ear in the 2nd grade. So they were afraid that I missed a lot in class. So that's why they chose to help me back and retake it. So yeah.
Yeah, that's got to be hard. 2nd grade, you have a lot of friends and you're kind of starting to, that's tough. So, so you say that you like to travel. Yeah. So tell me, I guess, your favorite place that you've been, and then just like your dream job, but your dream vacation.
That's hard. I don't know my dream vacation. I just like to. Well, my favorite place to travel is Charlotte, North Carolina. Yeah, I really like that place, and also Gatlinburg because we always go down there. Somehow I always wanted to travel more out west because I'm always curious of what's out west. I'm not sure what states. But yeah, I'm an adventurous person who's ready to take on any challenge.
I love it. So let's see. What else do we want to talk about? Gosh, I think we hit most of the questions that I had. Is there anything else that you can think of that we haven't hit that you want to share?
I'm tripping. I don't think I have any coming to my mind right now.
So I guess that, what we really like to kind of end it with is, what message would you like to tell other parents that have children who are deaf and hard of hearing? What advice would you give them?
Well, I know there's all awesome parents out there. Yeah. I would tell them to just show love and support, remind whoever is deaf or hard of hearing that they are loved and everything, and they're always there, because that's what really helped me through my path and my journey into this wild ride of hard of hearing stuff that I came across. And also to like what my parents stated is that anything is possible and determination and all that stuff. So yeah, show love and support.
You seem very determined, so I feel like you're gonna like go on and start your own company and travel the world. And I like your message of don't let your hearing loss kind of stop you from doing all that and living your dreams. So we're super honored to have you as one of our DHH heroes, and we're looking forward to getting back in person and having you come to some of our events. And like I said earlier, parents, that are here tonight, if you chime in, you'll get a card from Shaylee from the Teal Flash and William, who we talked to earlier. So, this is my first conversation with Shaylee too, and it's been such a pleasure to kind of get to know her on a more personal level. So, hopefully, everyone out there watching tonight also enjoyed that. So, again, I guess just thanks for watching tonight, and come back next week, or not next week. Please don't come back next week. Come back next month, on June 15th at 7:30. We will have 2 new superheroes to talk to. That night we will have Duffy Dolphin and the Grill Master. So kind of stay tuned for all of that, and wait to see you all next month, and hope you all have a good night. And thanks again, Shaylee.
Thank you for having me.